Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are continuing our series on foundational mythologies, and today we are tackling a subject that I think, honestly, suffers from being a little too famous.
Oh, absolutely. The greatest hits problem, right?
Exactly. You hear the name, and you immediately picture the same, three or four things. Big triangular piles of rocks, king tuts, gold mass.
Maybe a guy walking sideways on a wall.
Right, the hieroglyph poses, but that's the postcard version. And the reading we've been doing for this, it's about something so much deeper. It's about looking at ancient Egypt, not just as a kingdom with borders and armies.
But as a profound theological project.
That was the phrase in the notes that just stopped me in my tracks. A theological project. It reframes everything.
It's a heavy phrase, but it's really the only way to make sense of it. I mean, if you try to analyze Egypt like you would, say, the Roman Empire, just looking at taxes and conquest and infrastructure, you completely miss the point.
You're looking at the hardware, but not the software.
Precisely. Egypt wasn't just a country. It was an enormous, intricate machine designed to do one very specific thing: keep the universe from collapsing.
Which raises the stakes just a little bit higher than, paying your grain tax on time.
Just a bit, yeah.
So, to get into this, we have to throw out our modern distinction between church and state. It's just not a useful lens here.
Yeah.
We have to look at the core conflict that defined their reality. And it wasn't Egypt versus the Hittites or some other earthly enemy.
No, the real war was cosmic. It was Ma'at versus Isfet.
This is the binary code of the Egyptian mind, isn't it?
It is. Everything. Architecture, law, art, farming, kingship. It all sits on this fundamental seesaw. On one side, you have Ma'at.
Now, I've usually seen Ma'at translated as truth or justice.
Right.
You see the picture of the goddess with the single ostrich feather on her head. But based on what we've read, justice feels a bit, well, it feels small.
It's way too small. It makes it sound like she's just in charge of court cases. Ma'at is much, much bigger than a legal verdict. Think of Ma'at as order with a capital O. It's the fundamental cohesion of the universe. It's the laws of physics working correctly. It's the sun rising at the right time, the stars moving in their proper courses, the Nile flooding to the right height.
So it's the operating system of reality.
That's a perfect analogy. It's the active, organizing force that keeps the cosmos running. And it has to be active because of what's on the other side of that seesaw.
Isfet, the bad guy.
Well, not just a bad guy like some cartoon villain with a mustache. Isfet is something far more terrifying. It's the void. It's the uncreated. It's chaos, disorder, violence, falsehood, and entropy.
The natural state of things, in their view.
Exactly. The Egyptians believed that the universe, our entire reality, was basically a small, fragile air bubble of Ma'at floating in a terrifying, infinite ocean of Isfet.
That is a genuinely terrifying image.
It is. And they believed that Isfet was the default setting. If you stop working, if you stop the rituals, if you stop maintaining the system, the bubble doesn't just shrink. It pops. The ocean rushes in. And everything you know, everything you are, simply ceases to be. It reverts to uncreation.
So existence isn't a guarantee, it's a daily struggle. It's a project you have to work on.
It's a daily battle. And this is where the human role comes in. We tend to look at ancient religions and think, oh, the gods do everything and humans just watch and pray. But in Egypt, it was a partnership, a critical partnership.
And the pharaoh is the linchpin.
He's the linchpin. The pharaoh's primary job description wasn't really king or commander-in-chief. His most important job was to maintain Ma'at.
He's the chief maintenance officer of the universe.
Effectively, yes. Every ritual performed in every temple, the laws he upheld, the ethics of the people, that was the fuel for the cosmic machine. If the pharaoh failed to uphold Ma'at, it wasn't just a political crisis that might lead to a rebellion.
It meant the sky might literally fall down. Gravity could just stop.
I suddenly feel a lot more sympathy for the pharaohs. I mean, that is a lot of pressure to wake up to every single morning. Good morning, Your Majesty. Please don't let the fundamental forces of nature unravel today.
That's exactly how they saw it. Every sunrise was a victory. Proof that the system was still working. Okay, let's ground this a bit, because this high-concept philosophy didn't just appear out of nowhere. It came from the dirt. The idea that geography is destiny, I mean, for Egypt, it's almost too perfect a metaphor.
It's so stark. It's not subtle at all. If you've ever looked at a satellite image of Egypt, you see it immediately. You have the Nile winding through this ribbon of intense, vibrant green, and then these razor-sharp lines where the green just stops and the brown begins. There's no gentle transition.
There are two lands.
Yes. Kemet and Deshret, it's central to their identity. Kemet means the black land, and it's named after that rich black alluvial soil deposited by the river. That's life. That's order. That's matat. That's where you build your house and grow your wheat and raise your family.
And Shre, that sounds like desert.
It's the root of the word. It's the red land, the desert. That's Isfet. That's the hostile, sterile, sun-blasted waste where nothing grows. It's the land of death and chaos and dangerous animals.
What's so amazing is that you could literally stand with 1 foot in Ma'at and 1 foot in Isfet.
You absolutely could. And that visceral, daily visual reinforced their theology every single day. You didn't need a holy book to tell you that order was fragile and precious and constantly being encroached upon by a vast, terrifying chaos. You just had to look out your window.
Speaking of the window, let's talk about the water, the Nile. We all know it floods. But to the Egyptians, this wasn't just hydrology. It was a recurring theological event.
The Akhet, the annual inundation. Every single year, the river would swell, and it would cover the land, and it would turn everything into this watery, muddy chaos. It looked like the end of the world. And then, slowly, the waters would recede, and new land would emerge, covered in that fresh, fertile mud, ready for life to begin again.
It's a reenactment of the original creation.
Exactly. They saw the creation of the world happening in slow motion every single year. For them, the floodwaters were the Nun, the primordial abyss, the chaos waters from before time returning to rejuvenate and purify the world. Creation wasn't a one-time event. It was a cycle.
This leads us directly into their concept of time, which I found really, really difficult to wrap my head around at first.
Yeah.
Because we think of time as a straight arrow, past, present, future, a line. They did not see it that way.
No, not at all. They had a dual concept of time, which is just fascinating. They had two different words that both often get translated into English as eternity, but they mean completely different things. Nehe and Jetta.
Okay, let's try to unpack this. Nehe first. What's that?
Nehe is cyclical time. It's repeating eternity. It's the time of the sun. The sun rises, it sets, it rises again. It's the seasons repeating. It's dynamic, it's movement, it's recurrence. It's associated with life, growth, and change. The world of the living operates on Nehe time.
Okay, that makes sense. The eternal cycle. And Djet.
Jeet is linear, or maybe static, eternity. It's the time of the stone. It's the state of being finished, perfect, and unchanging. It's permanence. It's the realm of the dead, specifically as ruled by the god Osiris. It's the Giza pyramids existing forever.
So is it fair to say that when you're alive, you're living in Nehe, and the whole goal of the afterlife is to transition into Jeet?
That is the goal, precisely. And think about how this manifested in their architecture. It's genius. Where did the ancient Egyptians live?
In houses made of mud brick.
Right, mud brick. Why? Because mud brick crumbles. It erodes. It's temporary. It belongs to the cycle of decay and renewal. It belongs to Neha.
But the tombs?
The tombs and the temples, the houses of eternity, were built of granite and limestone. Stone that lasts forever. They were built for Jet. They weren't just showing off their wealth. They were consciously choosing materials that matched the theological time zone the building was meant to exist in.
That is such a cool insight. It's not just, we have a lot of rocks, let's build something big. It's, we need to build a machine that can exist outside of cyclical time.
Precisely. It's theological engineering.
All right, so we have the setting. The stage is set with this cosmic battle. Now we need the actors. We need to talk about the creation myths. Can I say myths, plural? Because this is another thing that really trips up the modern mind. There isn't just one Genesis story in Egypt.
No, you have these major competing versions from different religious centers, Heliopolis, Hermopolis, Memphis, later Thebes, and they don't really agree with each other on the details at all.
And this drives modern people crazy. We want consistency. We want a single canonical text, a definitive Bible. But the Egyptians didn't think like that. They had a concept that scholars call a multiplicity of approaches.
Which means what exactly? They just didn't care about contradictions.
It means they thought the mystery of creation, the origin of everything, was so vast and so profound that no single story could possibly capture its full truth. They saw these myths not as conflicting facts, but as complementary layers. It's like looking at a diamond from different facets. Each facet shows you a different aspect of the light, but it's all the same diamond. Okay, so let's look at the first facet, the view from Heliopolis. This is the one I think most people are vaguely familiar with. It's the physical one.
Yes, the Heliopolitan cosmogony. It focuses on the sheer physical mechanics of generation. It starts with the god Atum, whose name means the complete one.
And where is Adam at the beginning of this story?
He's alone. He creates himself out of the nun, those chaotic, formless waters we mentioned. And he's standing on the Ben, which is the primeval mound, the first little piece of earth to rise from the water.
So he's standing on this little island in an infinite ocean of nothingness. He must be pretty lonely.
He is alone, and that's the central problem for creation. He wants to create, but there's no partner. So the myth gets very biological.
Yeah, the sources here are pretty graphic. They don't pull any punches. Depending on which text you read, he either sneezes or spits or engages in an act of divine masturbation to create the next generation of gods.
Right. And it sounds crude to us, maybe even vulgar or shocking. But to them, it wasn't about sex in a prurient way. It was about the concept of autonomy. It was a powerful theological statement emphasizing that the creative substance came entirely from within him. He didn't need any external raw materials. He was the raw material.
That makes a lot of sense. He contains everything. So from this act, let's just say the sneeze for now, he creates Shu, who is air, and Tefnut, who is moisture.
Correct, the first pair. And then they, in a more conventional way, have children. Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky.
And this leads to one of the most famous images in all of Egyptian art. You've definitely seen it. Geb, the earth god, is lying down on the ground.
And Nut, the sky goddess, is arched over him like a giant protective bridge, her body covered in stars. And standing between them, physically holding Nut up and keeping them apart, is their father, Shu, the god of the air.
So why do they need to be held apart? What's the significance of that?
Because before Shu stepped in, earth and sky were locked in a tight, unending embrace. There was no space between them for anything to exist. By separating them, Shu creates the atmosphere. He creates the bubble, our bubble of Ma'at, where life can breathe and grow.
So creation isn't just about making stuff. It's about making space for stuff to happen.
Exactly. It's the act of differentiation, taking a singularity and creating duality.
Okay, so that's Heliopolis. Physical, biological, very direct. Now let's jump over to Hermopolis.
This one feels totally different. It's less about a god sneezing and more about, I don't know, chemistry. It's much more abstract.
It is very abstract. The priests of Hermopolis focused on the Ogdode, which just means the group of 8. It was 4 pairs of male and female deities who represented the conditions that existed before creation, the properties of the primordial chaos.
And they looked really weird, right? They weren't depicted like the other gods.
Not at all. The 4 males were depicted with the heads of frogs, and the 4 females were depicted with the heads of snakes. Frogs and snakes. Why those specific animals? That seems so random.
Think about the primeval swamp. Mud, slime, the chaotic waters of the Nun. What are the first things you see emerging from the muck? Frogs and snakes. They are the creatures of the wet, undifferentiated chaos. They are born from it.
Okay, that clicks. So what do these 4 pairs represent?
They represented the fundamental elements of the void. You had Nun and Noned, representing water and stagnation. He and Hohet for infinity and endlessness, Kek and Kauket for darkness, and Amun and Amunet representing hiddenness or invisibility.
So these aren't creator gods, they're the ingredients of non-creation.
Exactly. The idea in the Hermopolitan myth is that these negative, chaotic forces interacted within the waters. They churned together in a kind of cosmic soup until, bang, a chemical reaction occurred. They achieved a critical mass.
A spark. A moment of creation.
It's often described in 2 ways. Either a cosmic egg, which was invisible in the water, suddenly cracks open, or a giant lotus flower spontaneously blooms on the surface of the water. And from that interaction, the sun, Ra, bursts forth in a flash of light.
So Heliopolis is one god makes everything from himself. Hermopolis is chaos spontaneously generates order through interaction.
Yes. But then you get to Memphis. And this one is my absolute favorite because it sounds incredibly modern. It almost sounds like Greek philosophy or even Christian theology centuries before any of that.
This is the theology that revolves around the god Ta.
Ta, the craftsman god. He's usually shown as a man wrapped up like a mummy, holding a scepter and wearing a tight-fitting skull cap. The priests of Memphis, who are a very intellectual bunch, argued that Adam's physical act, the sneezing or whatever, was too crude, too primal. They had a more elegant solution.
Right, they said Ta created the universe through his heart and his tongue.
Heart and tongue. And we need to understand what that means in Egyptian terms. For us, the heart is about emotion. For them, the heart, was the seat of the mind, of consciousness, of thought. So Ta first conceived the entire universe as a complete intellectual idea in his heart.
He thought it all up first.
Every last detail. And then he used his tongue to speak the names of all the things he had conceived. He spoke them into existence.
In the beginning was the Word, It's the Logos doctrine.
It is exactly the Logos doctrine, the idea that articulate thought and divine speech are the actual mechanisms of reality. Ta said sky, and the sky existed. He said Nile, and the Nile began to flow. It frames the universe as a divine intellectual construct.
That is just wildly sophisticated for that period of history.
It's incredible. It suggests that names aren't just arbitrary labels we stick on things. To the Egyptians, the Ren, the name, is the essential nature of the thing. To know something's true name is to have power over it.
And finally, we get to Thebes, the latecomer that basically decided to eat everyone else's homework and synthesize it.
Thebes was the great synthesizer. Their local god was Amun, who we met as one of the Ogdode. His name means the hidden one. As Thebes rose to become the political and religious capital of Egypt, the priests there basically said, okay, all those other creation stories, they're all true, but Amun is the hidden, invisible force behind all of them.
So he's the battery powering all the other creator gods.
He's the invisible breath of life, the potential that precedes actuality. And to make him the supreme god, they merged him with the most powerful visible god, the sun god Ra, to create Amun-Ra.
A brilliant political and theological move.
It was. So now you have a single god who is both the hidden, invisible potential of the universe, Amun, and the visible, blinding, life-giving power of the sun. It was a way to unify the country religiously under the authority of Thebes.
One god to rule them all, in a sense. So the universe is created. Now it's populated. And it's not just a few gods. We have this massive, complex hierarchy of beings, the Neteru.
It's a bureaucracy. Honestly, that's the best way to think of it, a divine bureaucracy. You have the primordial forces like the Ogdode, you have the great creator gods, and then you have hundreds of other deities running the day-to-day operations of the cosmos.
Solar deities running the sky, Chonic deities running the underworld, and then even local spirits running specific towns or canals.
And they weren't static, were they? We just talked about Amun-Ra. Gods could mash up, they could merge.
Syncretism. It's a key feature of their religion. It's very fluid. A god could merge with another to borrow their powers or their domains. It's not like Greek mythology where Zeus is always Zeus and Apollo is always Apollo. In Egypt, identities could blur and combine. It was very pragmatic. I want to touch on the stars before we get to the big names because the outline mentioned celestial architecture, and I feel like we always ignore the stars in favor of the sun. But for the Egyptians, the stars were their map of eternity.
They absolutely were. Their view of the night sky was incredibly detailed and theological. They divided the stars into two main camps, the imperishable stars and the unwearying stars.
Those are great names. What's the difference between them?
The imperishable stars are the circumpolar stars in the north. If you watch the night sky, they're the ones that never set below the horizon. They just rotate around the celestial pole. To the Egyptians, these stars were the ultimate goal. They represented perfect, undying immortality. They never died by dipping below the horizon.
So that's the VIP section of the afterlife.
That's the VIP section and the unwearying ones.
Those are all the other stars, the ones that rise and set. They were seen as the divine crew of the solar bark, Ra's boat. They're unwearying because they are constantly working, constantly rowing the boat through the heavens a day and through the underworld at night. So you have a choice of afterlives there. You can achieve static, unchanging perfection in the north, or you can have a life of eternal, meaningful service in the south.
Exactly. It's a fascinating choice.
Okay, let's get to the celebrities, the major gods. We've mentioned Ra, the CEO of the cosmos, but there's a really weird moment in Egyptian history we have to address first. The glitch in the system, the Aten.
The Amarna period, Akhenaten. This is when the pharaoh basically flips the entire table over. For a brief period of about 17 years, he decides that all these gods, Amun, Osiris, Ptah, the whole bureaucracy, are false. They're unnecessary.
And he says there is only one God.
The Aten. And it's crucial to understand this. The Aten was not the god of the sun. It was the physical disk of the sun itself, the light.
So not a personality, not an anthropomorphic being. Just the raw energy.
Exactly, just light and heat. He banned the worship of all other gods. He shut down the powerful temples of Amun-Ra. He even moved the capital city to a new location in the desert. It was a radical, top-down, monotheistic experiment.
How did that go over with the general population?
They hated it, absolutely despised it. It stripped away all the personal connection and mythology they loved. You couldn't pray to the Aten. The Aten was a cosmic force. You had to pray to the pharaoh, Akhenaten, who was the sole intermediary.
So he made himself the Pope.
He made himself the only path to God, and for the Egyptians, it broke Mot. It was an act of supreme arrogance. So as soon as Akhenaten died, they smashed his monuments, chiseled his name off of everything, and went right back to the old ways as fast as they possibly could.
The system rebooted itself.
Yeah.
Let us never speak of this again.
Pretty much. And they went right back to the most popular, most beloved story of all, the Osirian cycle. If you want to understand the Egyptian heart, their ideas about life, death, and kingship, you have to understand this family soap opera. It's the central narrative of their entire culture. It explains why kingship exists, why resurrection is possible, and why they mummified their dead.
Okay, let's lay out the cast. You have Osiris, the good and just king. You have Isis, his brilliant and magical wife. You have Set, his chaotic, envious brother. And Nephthys, Set's wife and their sister.
So Osiris is ruling Egypt, and it's a golden age. He teaches humanity agriculture, laws, civilization. Everything is great. But his brother Set is consumed with jealousy.
Now, Set is such an interesting character. He's the god of chaos, storms, deserts, foreigners. Is he purely evil?
He's necessary. That's the complex part. In this story, he's absolutely the villain. But in other stories, as we'll see, he has a crucial protective role. He represents the violent, untamable forces of the world. You can't have a story without conflict, and he is that conflict.
So he plots against his brother. He throws a massive party.
And at the height of the party, he brings out this incredibly beautiful, ornate chest, the very first sarcophagus. And he makes a game of it. He says, whoever fits perfectly inside this chest gets to keep it.
A very dangerous party game.
It is. Of course, he had secretly gotten Osiris's measurements earlier, so he knew it was built to fit him and only him. Everyone tries. They're too tall, too short. Finally, Osiris lies down in it.
And it's a perfect fit. And slam. Set and his followers nail the lid shut, seal it with molten lead, and throw the whole thing into the Nile.
The first murder. A betrayal at the heart of the divine family, but it gets so much worse. Isis, the archetype of the devoted wife, is heartbroken and goes searching for her husband's body. She eventually finds the chest, which had washed ashore, but Set, in his rage, finds her with the body.
And he's not done.
Not even close. He takes the body of his brother and, in a fit of pure Isfet, tears it into 14 pieces and scatters them all across the land of Egypt.
This is the part that must have horrified the Egyptians on a deep, visceral level.
Dismemberment was the ultimate horror. We know you need your physical body, the Ka, to be intact for the afterlife. By ripping him apart, Set wasn't just killing him, he was trying to unmake him, to erase him from existence. He was inflicting total chaos on the divine king's body.
But Isis is known as Great of Magic.
Yeah.
She doesn't give up. She goes on this grim scavenger hunt across the country.
She and her sister Nephthys search everywhere. They find the pieces, one by one, except for one crucial part.
The phallus.
The phallus. It had been thrown in the Nile and eaten by a fish.
The Oxyrhynchus fish, specifically.
Yes. And I assume that fish was not very popular on the dinner menu after that.
It was considered a taboo food in many parts of Egypt, yes.
Yeah.
It was unclean. But think about the profound tragedy here. Isis magically reassembles the body, performing the first mummification with the help of the god Anubis. But he's incomplete. He can't rule the world of living anymore. He's compromised. So what does she do?
She fashions a replacement out of gold, uses her powerful magic to briefly revive him, and conceives a son, Horus. After that act, Osiris's destiny is sealed. He descends to the underworld to become its king.
The Lord of the Dead.
The king of jet eternity.
Meanwhile, up on Earth, Horus grows up in secret in the papyrus swamps, hidden from his evil uncle Set, and he's burning for revenge. This leads to the contendings of Horus and Set,
which is this epic 80-year-long legal and physical battle for the throne of Egypt. It's wild. It's part brutal combat, part courtroom drama, part bizarre mythological Looney Tunes.
There are all sorts of contests, right? Like they turn into hippos and have a breath-holding contest. They have a boat race where Horus cheats by making his boat out of stone painted to look like wood.
It's incredible, but it also has moments of shocking violence. At one point, Set tears out one of Horus's eyes.
The famous Eye of Horus, the Wadjet symbol.
Yes. Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, eventually heals it and puts it back. But here's a cool little detail. The myth says the eye was broken into 6 pieces, and the hieroglyphic symbols for those pieces are what the Egyptians use for their fractions.
Wait, it's connected to math.
It is. The different parts of the eye symbol represented 12, 14, 18, 116, 132, and 164. If you add all those up, you get 6364.
So what happened to the last 164th?
Thoth supplied it with magic. It's a beautiful theological point.
Mm.
Nothing in the physical world is ever perfectly whole on its own. You always need that little spark of the divine, that bit of magic to make it complete.
That is deep.
Oh.
Okay, so Horus gets his eye back. Does he get his revenge?
He does. In their final battle, Horus manages to rip off one of Set's testicles.
Ouch.
A very symbolic act, neutralizing the chaotic, violent fertility of Isfet. After that, the divine court finally rules in Horus's favor.
So what's the verdict?
Horus is declared the rightful king of the living. Set is banished to the desert, or in some versions, given a new job. And Osiris is affirmed as the king of the dead. This establishes the divine model of kingship for all of Egyptian history.
Every living pharaoh is the embodiment of Horus, and every dead pharaoh becomes one with Osiris.
Exactly. The king never really dies, he just changes roles. It's a brilliant system for ensuring eternal continuity and stability.
It's an amazing story. But it wasn't just pharaohs who had power. We have to talk about the priests in the temples, because the outline calls the temple a machine, and that's a powerful image.
It was a machine, a cosmic engine. We really need to get the idea of a church or a mosque out of our heads. A temple wasn't a place for the public to come inside and hear a sermon or pray together. In fact, ordinary people weren't even allowed past the outer courtyard.
So it wasn't for the people. What was happening inside?
Maintenance. Cosmic maintenance. The temple was designed as a perfect scale model of the universe at the moment of creation.
Okay, walk us through it. If I'm a high priest walking into the temple at dawn, what am I seeing and experiencing?
You start by passing through the pylons, those massive sloping gateway walls. Those represent the two mountains of the horizon, the Akhet, where the sun rises. Then you enter a large, open courtyard flooded with sunlight. This is the world of light and order. But as you move deeper into the temple, everything changes.
The floor starts to rise.
The floor gently ramps up, and the ceiling gets progressively lower. You are moving toward the primeval mound, the light from outside vanishes, and you enter the hypostyle hall.
And it's filled with columns.
Dozens of columns carved to look like papyrus stalks and lotus flowers. You are symbolically walking through the thick, swampy marshes of creation. The light is dim, coming only from small slits in the roof. Shadows are everywhere. It's mysterious and a little claustrophobic.
And you keep going deeper.
Deeper and higher, until finally you reach the very back of the temple, the sanctuary. It's the highest point. It's a small, pitch-black room. You have walked back in time to the moment before creation. You are standing on the benben, the first mound, and inside a shrine in that room is the statue of the god.
And this is where the daily ritual happens. This is the purpose of the whole machine.
Every single morning at dawn, the high priest, who has been ritually purified, breaks the clay seal on the doors of the shrine. He opens them and says, "The god is awake." He carefully takes the statue out. He ceremonially bathes it, anoints it with oils, and dresses it in fresh, fine linen. He even puts makeup on its eyes.
It sounds like they're playing with a doll.
It does to us, but to them, it was like being a valet for a living king. And then the most important part, he feeds it. He lays out an elaborate meal on the altar bread, beer, wine, meat, vegetables.
They weren't stupid. They knew the statue was made of stone or gold. They saw the food was still there an hour later. What did they think was happening?
Of course. They believed the Ka, the divine life force of the god, inhabited the statue at that moment. The god didn't eat the physical food. It consumed the Ka, the spiritual essence of the food.
So the god eats the ghost food. What happens to the actual physical food?
The priests eat it. It's a process called the reversion of offerings. Once the god has taken its share, the food is removed and distributed among the temple staff.
That is a fantastic gig. Best catering in town.
It is. You're getting steak and high-quality beer every single day, and you're technically eating the god's leftovers, which means some of that divine essence is being transferred to you. It was a very practical economic engine that supported the entire priesthood.
I do want to clarify the priesthood, though. It wasn't just one type of guy in a robe.
No, it was very specialized. You had the high-ranking priests, the Hem-Netcher, which means servants of the god, but you also had specialists. You had the lector priests. They're the ones you see in art with a sash across their chest. They were the keepers of the sacred books. They read the magical spells, the Heika. They were the magicians.
And the ones in the leopard skins.
Those were the Sem priests. They always wore real leopard skin robes. They were the funerary specialists. They performed the critical opening of the mouth ceremony for the dead.
It all sounds incredibly serious and solemn. But then I read about the festivals, and it seems like they really knew how to party. Specifically, the Opet Festival and the beautiful Festival of the Valley.
Oh, the Egyptians were not a gloomy people.
Yeah.
The Opet festival was a massive parade where the statue of Amun would travel from Karnak Temple to Luxor Temple to ritually recharge the king's divinity. But the beautiful festival of the valley, that was for everyone. That was for the dead.
This is the one that involves going to the cemeteries on the West Bank.
Yes. Entire families would pack up food and drink, cross the river to the necropolis, and have a huge picnic in the chapels of their ancestors' tombs. They would feast and sing and leave offerings. And the stated religious goal was to achieve a state of ritual drunkenness.
You had to get hammered to honor your ancestors.
Essentially, yes. They believed that alcohol, in a controlled ritual setting, lowered the barrier between the world of the living and the world of the dead. If you were intoxicated, you might be able to see them, to hear their voices, to feel their presence. It wasn't seen as disrespectful. It was a powerful act of communion.
I absolutely love that. It's not about sad mourning. It's a joyful reunion.
Yeah.
But eventually the party ends. And we have to talk about death. The Egyptians are famous for it, but their manual for dying is incredibly complicated. First off, you aren't just one thing. You're a collection of parts.
The composite soul. This is so crucial to understanding them. We say my soul, singular. They had at least 5 major components that made up a person.
Let's run through them. First, the cot.
That's your physical body, the meat and bones. This is why mummification was absolutely non-negotiable. If the cot decays and is lost, the other spiritual parts have nowhere to anchor themselves. They become homeless and eventually fade away.
Then you had the cot.
The ka is your vital spark, your life force. It's the invisible animating energy. It's often depicted as a ghostly double of yourself. The ka is what needs food and drink in the afterlife. That's why they brought offerings to tombs for centuries after someone died.
And the ba. This is the cool one.
The ba is the closest to our concept of personality. Your unique individuality, your consciousness. It's depicted as a bird with your own human head. The ba was amazing because it could fly out of the tomb during the day, travel, visit your old favorite spots, feel the sun on its face. But it had to return to the mummy, to the cot, every single night to be recharged.
So if a tomb robber comes in and smashes the face of your mummy,
the ba can't recognize its body. It can't re-enter. And you die the second death. You cease to exist, which is why the preservation of the body was so important.
high stakes for the embalmer then.
Yeah.
You also have the Ren, the name.
To speak the name of the dead is to make him live again. This was a profound belief. Your name was an essential part of your existence. If an enemy chiseled your name off your monument, they weren't just vandalizing it. They were actively trying to kill your soul in the afterlife.
And finally, the Ebb.
The heart. Yes, the heart, the seat of intelligence, emotion, and conscience. For them, the brain was just stucking. The heart did all the thinking. And critically, the heart was the part of you that would be judged in the afterlife. It was the witness to your entire life.
So you die, your body's wrapped up,
Yeah.
but you're basically in a spiritual coma. You need a jump start.
Yeah.
This is the opening of the mouth ceremony.
This is the most important ritual in the entire funeral. A Sem priest, wearing his leopard skin, takes this weirdly shaped tool and adze, which looks like a carpentry tool, and he touches it to the lips, eyes, nose, and ears of the mummy case or statue.
And what's the purpose of that?
He recites specific spells to magically restore the senses to the deceased. Without this ritual, you would arrive in the afterlife blind, deaf, and dumb. You'd be a prisoner trapped inside your own corpse forever. The ritual opens your capacity to breathe, eat, speak, and see again.
Once you're activated, the journey begins.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a gentle walk in the park. It's the Mduat.
The book of that which is in the Duat, or the underworld. It's a detailed, hour-by-hour map of the journey. The sun god Ra travels through this dangerous realm on his boat every night, and the souls of the worthy dead are allowed to tag along for protection.
It starts out okay, but then it gets very scary.
Very scary. By the 4th and 5th hours of the night, you enter the desert of Sokar. The river of the underworld dries up completely. The sunboat gets stuck. It has to be transformed into a serpent so it can slither over the sand. It's dark, silent, and absolutely terrifying, full of demons and monsters.
But then we get to the 6th hour, the midnight hour. This is the theological climax of the entire journey.
This is the deepest, most mysterious moment of the night. It's the moment of fusion. The soul of Ra, the vibrant, energetic force of the sun, meets the resting body of Osiris, the king of the dead. The text says Ra rests in Osiris, and Osiris rests in Ra.
The dead king and the living sun merge into one being.
And that fusion acts like a cosmic spark plug. It recharges the sun, giving it the power to be reborn at dawn. It revives Osiris and all the dead who are with him. It is the engine of eternity. Without this sacred union at midnight, time itself would stop. The sun would not rise.
But as soon as they recharge, they get attacked. Hour 7.
The boss battle, Apep. A giant chaos serpent, the embodiment of Isfet, who lives in the deep waters. He lies in wait every single night with the sole purpose of swallowing the sunboat and extinguishing the light forever.
And this isn't just a metaphor for them. Right?
Whoa.
They believe this fight physically happened every single night beneath the earth.
Every single night. It was a real battle. All the gods on the boat, including, interestingly, the chaotic god Set, have to fight him off with spears and magic. The beautiful red sky at dawn, they believe that was the blood of Apep in the sky after he's been defeated and hacked to pieces for another day.
So Ra survives, the sun rises, but what about the individual human soul? We don't just get a free ride on the boat. We have to stand trial, the Hall of Two Truths.
The weighing of the heart. You are brought before the throne of Osiris and 42 terrifying divine judges, and the first thing you have to do is make the negative confession.
This is so fascinating because you don't list all the good things you did. You list all the bad things you didn't do.
Exactly. You have to stand there and recite a list of 42 sins, and for each one you say, I have not done this, I have not stolen, I have not killed, I have not been greedy, I have not polluted the water. And my personal favorite.
I have not made anyone cry. That one always gets me. That's such a high bar for a human life.
It is, isn't it? It implies you have lived a life of perfect ma'at. After you make your confession, the god Anubis steps forward. He takes your heart, your ib, and he places it on one side of a giant golden scale. On the other side, he places the single weightless feather of the goddess Ma'at.
And if your heart is light, free from the burden of sin, it balances with the feather. You pass. But if it's heavy?
If it's heavy with misdeeds, it tips the scale. And sitting right there by the scale, drooling and watching, is the demoness Amut.
The devourer of the dead.
She's a terrifying hybrid. The head of a crocodile, the front body of a lion, and the back end of a hippopotamus. The three most dangerous man-eating animals the Egyptians knew, all mashed into one nightmarish creature.
And she eats your heart. What happens then?
Hell. This is the part that is so hard for modern people to grasp because we are so used to the idea of hell as a place of eternal suffering. The Egyptians didn't fear suffering nearly as much as they feared non-existence.
The second death.
If Amut eats your heart, you just vanish. You are deleted from the cosmic record. Your consciousness, your memory, your soul, everything is utterly annihilated. To an Egyptian, that was infinitely worse than any torture. It was the final absolute victory of Isfet over your soul.
But if you pass the test...
Then you are declared Makuru, true of voice, your confession was true, and you are welcomed into the field of reeds, Aru.
And what does Egyptian heaven look like?
It looks like Egypt, but a perfect, idealized Egypt. The crops grow 9 feet tall without any effort. The wind is always cool and pleasant. You have your house, your family, your favorite dog is there with you. There's no sickness, no taxes, no pain. It's not about sitting on a cloud playing a harp. It's about living your best earthly life forever and ever.
It's very grounded. They really just wanted their life to continue, but without all the bad parts.
Exactly, and that's the key to their whole civilization. They are often called death-obsessed, but it's the opposite. They were so utterly life-obsessed, they loved being alive so much that they built this massive, complex theological and architectural system to ensure it would never, ever end.
But there is a text that suggests it does stop. For everyone, even for the gods.
Yeah.
The concept of an Egyptian end times.
Yes. Egyptian mythology isn't usually apocalyptic in the way we think of it, but there are these fascinating exceptions. First, let's talk about the destruction of mankind, because it's a great story, and it involves a lot of beer.
Yes, please. Always here for stories involving beer.
So, in a time when Ra is still ruling on Earth, he gets old and frail. Humans see this and they start mocking him. They plot rebellion against the gods. Ra finds out and is furious. He calls a council and decides to punish them. He sends his divine power manifest as the ferocious goddess Sekhmet.
The lioness-headed goddess of destruction.
And she is an absolute slaughter machine. She goes down to Earth and just starts killing. She wades in rivers of blood. And she discovers she enjoys it a lot. Ra looks down from the heavens and realizes, uh-oh, I wanted to discipline them, not make them extinct.
But he can't call her off. She's in a blood frenzy.
So he has to pull a trick. He orders his priests to brew 7,000 massive jars of beer, and then he has them dye the beer red with ochre dust.
So it looks like blood.
Exactly. He has them pour this red beer all over the fields where Sekhmet is hunting. She wakes up the next morning, thirsty for more blood, and sees this huge, shimmering lake of red liquid. She thinks it's a lake of human blood, and she starts lapping it up.
All 7,000 jars of it.
All 7,000 jars. She gets incredibly drunk. She passes out. When she wakes up, her rage is gone. She's probably very hungover, and her destructive aspect transforms into the gentle, loving goddess Hathor, the goddess of love, music, and joy.
So humanity was saved from total annihilation by a brewery trick.
Basically, yes. After that, Ra decides he's had enough of humanity and withdraws to the sky for good.
But there's a darker, more final prophecy in a spell from the Book of the Dead, a conversation between Adam and Osiris.
This is a very somber and profound note in their mythology. Adam, the original creator, tells Osiris that eventually, after millions of years, he will destroy everything he has made. He will uncreate the universe. The world will dissolve and return to the chaotic waters of the Nun.
No more pyramids, no more temples, no more field of reeds.
Everything gone, wiped clean. And Adam says, I and Osiris shall remain. But they won't even be gods anymore. They'll transform into serpents, floating in the endless dark water.
Why serpents?
Because serpents are primeval and formless. They have no arms, no legs. They are the shape of pure potential. The text implies they will just float in the void, waiting, maybe for a new creation to begin, or maybe forever.
That is surprisingly humble. A civilization so focused on permanence, admitting that even their bubble of order wasn't actually permanent.
It fits their cyclical worldview. What goes up must come down. Even the universe itself is part of a grander cycle of existence and non-existence.
Before we wrap up, I just want to touch on the visual language, the symbols, because we see them everywhere today on T-shirts and jewelry and tattoos. The Ankh, the Djed. What are we actually looking at?
The Ankh is the most ubiquitous. It looks like a cross with a loop on top. We all know it means life, but what is it, physically? The most likely theory is that it's a sandal strap.
A sandal strap? That seems so mundane.
But it's a brilliant pun. The part of the sandal that goes around your ankle, the Egyptian word for that strap was Ankh, and the word for life was also Ankh. So it's a visual pun that became the most profound, holy symbol in their culture.
And the Djed pillar, that weird column with the 4 horizontal bars at the top.
That's believed to represent the backbone of Osiris. It's the symbol of stability, endurance, and permanence. A major royal ritual was the raising of the Djed pillar, where the pharaoh would symbolically restore stability to the land.
And my favorite, the scarab, the humble beetle.
Khepri. This is my favorite example of their brilliant observation of nature. The Egyptians watched the dung beetle. It rolls a perfect ball of dung, its food source, across the sand. Then it buries it in a hole. A while later, new baby beetles seem to spontaneously emerge from the ground.
So to the Egyptians, that looked like?
It looked exactly like the sun god rolling the disk of the sun across the sky every day, and life emerging from what seemed to be dead, inert matter. That's resurrection, self-creation. So the humble dung beetle became the powerful icon of the rising sun and rebirth.
It's truly amazing how they took the most mundane things, bugs, sandals, fish, plants, and wove them into this incredibly high, sophisticated theology.
They saw the divine patterns in everything. Even the stars told them the time. The deacons.
It's a star clock.
Right. They identified 36 specific groups of stars, or single stars. As each one rose on the horizon at night, it marked the beginning of a new hour. Their entire life, their calendar, was calibrated to the sky, especially the star Sirius, which they called Sopdet. When she rose just before the sun after being hidden for 70 days, it signaled the new year and the beginning of the Nile flood. The sky literally told the river when to rise.
So the temples have been closed for over 1,500 years. The language was lost until Champollion cracked the Rosetta Stone in the 1820s. But is the project really dead? What is the legacy of this massive theological machine?
It's surprisingly alive, just under different names. The theological project leaked out. It heavily influenced the ancient Greeks who were fascinated by Egypt. You get the whole tradition of Hermeticism.
The as above, so below stuff.
Exactly. The figure of Hermes Trismegistus, or Hermes the Thrice Great, is just a Greek rebranding of the Egyptian god Thoth. The Hermetic texts, which were so influential during the Renaissance and are the foundation of modern alchemy and a lot of esoteric thought, are basically Egyptian theology filtered through Greek philosophy.
And that idea from Memphis, creation by the word.
It almost certainly influenced the writers of the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's the theology of Ta.
And then, much later, you have the Freemasons.
A huge influence. In the 18th and 19th centuries, intellectuals, artists like Mozart, and secret societies like the Masons were obsessed with Egypt as the ultimate source of ancient wisdom. The unfinished pyramid on the back of the US dollar bill. That's a direct borrowing of an Egyptian symbol of stability and divine providence. The Washington Monument, it's a giant Egyptian obelisk. We are still putting their solar symbols in the heart of our capitals.
It's like we just can't quite let go of their aesthetic of power and eternity.
Because it's so potent, it works.
So, bringing it all home, we started this whole deep dive by saying Egypt was a theological project to keep the fragile bubble of order from popping. What is the takeaway for us sitting here in the 21st century? What is the final thought we should be mulling over?
For me, it comes back to that central concept of Ma'at. It's about the profound fragility of order. We tend to think that civilization, stability, and justice are the default states, that things just work on their own. The Egyptians knew better. They knew that Ma'at requires constant active effort.
It's not passive. You can't take it for granted.
Never. Justice, truth, social cohesion, environmental balance. You have to get up every single morning and build it. You have to actively push back against the chaos, against Isfet. If you stop, if you get complacent, Isfet wins. The bubble pops.
The sky will fall if you don't do your job.
Yeah.
It's a powerful motivator.
It is, and I think that's their most relevant lesson. That and the fact that they weren't death-obsessed. They were life-obsessed. They built those incredible stone tombs not because they loved death, but because they loved being alive so much that they were willing to engineer a whole civilization to guarantee it would last forever.
They wanted to lock it in, to make it permanent.
They wanted to turn fleeting, cyclical Neha into eternal, unchanging jet.
Well, on that very profound note, I think we'll end our journey through the Duat for today.
Hopefully we made it past Amut and the weighing of the heart.
I think our hearts are light enough for now. If you out there enjoyed this deep dive, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps us keep our own little bubble of order floating for another week.
And it absolutely keeps the sky from falling in our studio.
Exactly. Weigh your hearts, live in Maria, and we'll see you next time.